afternoon. My name is Steve Fink, and I'm the Associate Athletic Director here at the University of South Carolina in charge of communications, and it's my pleasure to welcome you today to this historic announcement, and thank you for your attendance. Today we'll hear from University of South Carolina Athletic Director Ray Tanner, University President Harris Pastides, and head women's basketball coach Dawn Staley. As most of you know, this is homecoming weekend on campus with several events scheduled. In fact, all three of our speakers have other commitments immediately following today's press conference, so our time here is somewhat limited. We will have a few minutes to take some questions after Coach Staley finishes with her comments, but understand that our time for the Q&A will be relatively brief today. With that, I'd like to introduce Athletic Director Ray Tanner.
Thank you, Steve. Thank y'all for being here today. Appreciate the time that you're taking to visit with us, and we're always grateful for the coverage you give our student athletes and our coaches here at the university. I would like to begin by using a quote. If you ever watched The Field of Dreams, which probably many of us did more than once, James Earl Jones said, "Build it and they will come." I think it's fair to say that Coach Staley built it. They came, and they came back. And they're still coming, and the recruits are coming. So what she's done in her 13 seasons has been absolutely remarkable. A winning program and more to come. Sustaining success is one of the hardest things to do in sport, and she's already exemplified that. We've led the nation in attendance the past 7 years, including last year during a COVID-restricted attendance year. Her teams are not only known for their athletic prowess, but there's so many other ways they're recognized off the court, including academics and their excellence. Very, very often, her team is above a 3.0 with the GPA. And this past year, Leah Boston in 2021 was the COSIDA Women's Basketball Academic All-American. And as I said, her teams are consistently above a 3.0. Coach Staley's been a tireless advocate for her sport, not just the University of South Carolina and our women's basketball program, but for the sport. She believes in diversity, inclusion, and making a difference in the community that she lives in. She founded Inner Soul. Many of you know that that's an organization that provides sneakers to homeless children and children in need. I want to share a stat with you that being in the profession years ago is remarkable. We know she's going into her 14th season, so 13 in the books. When you take over a program, it very rarely is a plug and play. There's a process that you have to go through to be successful. Well, in her 13 seasons, she's won 76% of her games. So there was no plug and play, but she was still very successful. 74% of the SEC games that she played, she's won. In the last 8 seasons, 239 and 37. That's an 86.6 winning percentage. SEC, 114 wins, 14 losses. That's 89.1 winning percentage. Alex English, it's pretty good. In the 13 seasons prior to the one that she's about to tip off, we have a national championship, 3 Final Fours, 4 Elite Eights, and 8 Sweet 16s. We've won 5 SEC championships. We've won 6 tournament titles. Quite an accomplishment. 2020, Coach Staley was the Naismith National Coach of the Year, the WBCA National Coach of the Year, the AP National Coach of the Year, the U.S. Basketball Writers Association National Coach of the Year, and in 2015, she was the USA Co-National Coach of the Year. In 2013, she received the Order of the Palmetto, which goes to the highest civilian honor awarded by the Governor of South Carolina. She's been SEC Coach of the Year 4 times. She's a member of the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame and the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. We all know that this past summer she was the head coach of the USA National Olympic Basketball Team. with a gold medal accomplishment. Never to forget the 3 years that she was a point guard, that she also got gold medals. And in 2004, the Olympic year, she was honored by her fellow Olympians as a flag bearer at the Olympic Games. I'm honored to be a part of the celebration today and of Coach Staley's tenure in my 10th year as the athletics director. And I know that the statistics and the numbers I've shared with you are incredible. And there's a lot of great years ahead of us. She's a very special woman. She's impacted women's basketball in a way that we all know, on the court, but off the court. And she uses her platform to speak and represent all the women and the sport that she cares so much about, as she displayed at the NCAA championship, and rightfully so. Again, I'm honored to be a part of this celebration today, and I look forward to being able to one day have so many more accolades that we'll just have to condense it. But somebody asked me if I would share something personal about Coach Staley, and I said I'm a little bit afraid to share anything personal. She might get after me. But I will tell you this: unless she changes her ways, she's been known to dress up around Halloween. So we'll look forward to that. But thank you very much for being here. And now I have the pleasure of introducing our president of the University of South Carolina, Dr. Harris Pastides.
Thank you.
Get out of your way.
Thank you, Coach Tanner. Good evening, Coach. Good evening, everybody. I'm only interim now, but I think one of the reasons maybe I did come back was to see this particular event happen and come true. Truly is a great day, but not only for today, it's about our future. This begins the modern future of the University of South Carolina women's basketball program. As Ray said, 13 amazing seasons, and I'd love to see Coach Staley complete her career here if she so chooses. Her track record speaks for itself, but more than that, and Ray alluded to it, she is a remarkable individual. She has a winning heart, a winning mind, a winning attitude, and of course, a winning team. She is in every way a class act, and she's a groundbreaker. And today, she breaks through that glass ceiling of gender equity in coaches' salaries right here at the University of South Carolina. Coach Staley has won over the hearts and minds of young people from across the nation, and especially our fan base, our fan community here in Columbia, around the state, around the Southeast, around the SEC, and I would argue around the country. As Ray said, she was the flag bearer for the U.S. Olympic team in Athens, and this past year brought home gold again, and that team lost to nobody. She's an outstanding recruiter, I would say the very best in the country. And you know what? She sets the bar high for herself as well as for those around her. Ray mentioned, but I've got to reiterate that in the community, she gives so much back to help people, to help young people, to help working people, supporting after-school programs for at-risk youth, donating shoes to underprivileged children, and raising confidence of young people, telling her own story and saying that if I can do it, you can do it too. We've continually been rewarded by her efforts in bringing fans in. We have near capacity crowds at Colonial Life Arena. I know Coach Tanner could tell you how many season tickets have been sold already for this year. There's frenzied excitement about the next women's basketball season, and we usually lead the nation in attendance in women's basketball. There may be a few other coaches who've won as many games or a few more games, but no one who's won more hearts and minds than Coach Staley over 13 years. Today, we're also setting a high bar of expectations for her. We're raising the bar even for you, Coach. We now expect excellence throughout the season and in postseason play. We know there'll be more appearances in the Final Four. They've become the norm. Can you imagine any team when a fan base expects to get to the Final Four? That is a high bar. Not many would accept that challenge, but Dawn Staley does. In fact, Coach Staley is very nearly perfect except for one thing, her insistence on rooting for her hometown Philadelphia professional teams instead of the New York teams. And we both believe we own the nation's best signed baseball collection. Coach, we'll have to see how that works out in the long run. With this contract extension, Coach Staley becomes, I don't know if it's one of the highest women's basketball coaches in terms of salary in the nation. It's hard to know that because private universities don't divulge. I hope she is number one, frankly. That's what we'd like to do here. She taught us how to break the glass ceiling in women's basketball and for women's coaches. That's what she is doing today. She broke right through that glass ceiling and she's cutting down the net. So it makes me very proud to say that we did all this with our coach right here at the University of South Carolina. We can't wait, Dawn, to see the heights that you and your teams, and by the way, your amazing coaches, all of the coaches, not only you, how you work so hard together. And now it gives me great pleasure to invite Coach Dawn Staley to the podium to say a few words of her own. Welcome, Coach.
I'm a little bit younger, I can use technology. First, I think today is a big day for me, and I don't really like shining the spotlight on me, but it's also a huge day for the game of women's basketball and for gender equity across the nation. I would like to just personally thank President Pastides for being that president that stands up for everything that's right, unpopularly right. Also like to thank Coach Tanner for actually his negotiating techniques when it comes to this. I think Coach Tanner has been in my position before as a coach. I will have to say he's a suit now, because he's been a great leader for our athletics department. And I also like to thank the board of directors, trustees for making such a monumental thing today, because it really is mind-boggling to stand before you for what we're standing here for. And I also have to thank some people here who were incredibly instrumental in getting this done, and Butch Bowers and Angela O'Neill. They have both were people who I confided in, people who just helped steer this ship in the right direction, and these are people who I feel like I'm forever indebted to, because they just stayed the course. I got to thank the University of South Carolina for just being committed to leading this way and recognizing gender equity in our country. I hope that one day that, it's probably popular standing here, but unpopular somewhere else across our nation. So I hope that today we will stand in being unpopularly right, and tomorrow it's a popular right thing to do. And I'm so grateful that the University of South Carolina were the ones to do it, because for a long time, South Carolina has not always been on the popular end of history, but I stand here before you to say that this is a transformational decision that was made, and I'm super proud that I represent this place, this state, and hope that and hope that we can continue to do this, not just with women's basketball, with all women's sports, with all women's professors, with all women's administrators, and that goes down the line. And then lastly, I'd like to thank our FAMs. You know, this was a process in which took a little while, and sometimes when you're not directly a part of the process, you get a little antsy and you want things to happen quickly. But I appreciate the length of time that it took for this to happen, because you can appreciate it a little bit more. You can certainly share in the moments that it took to accomplish this, and our fams were right there with us. But now that it's done, I look forward to sharing moments in Colonial Life Arena in which we can get back to practicing, playing, winning championships, and making this entire state super proud of the product that we put on the floor. So, thank you.
Again, we just have a few minutes for questions. Diana does have a microphone, so if you have a question, David, first.
How's it going, Dawn, and congratulations. What does it mean to you that the university was not only willing to work with you on this, but wanted to award you this?
I mean, it's you know, when you've been a part of this community, and for me, it's 13 years. I moved my mother here 13 years ago. My sister, who's here in attendance, moved, I believe, 7 years ago. My brother, who's coming down on Sunday, is going to move his family down here within the next year. This is a place I've called home, and I'm real comfortable with being here. I do believe this contract extension keeps me here. It's fair to say for a very long time. I don't know when my career will end, but certainly I want this to be my last stop, because it's a place I've learned to grow as a woman. It's a place I've learned to grow as a coach, a place I've learned to grow as a dream merchant, and why not continue this partnership and this family and this marriage, which seems to benefit, us and the University of South Carolina.
Don, congratulations. Dr. Pastides mentioned the fact that you've broken that glass ceiling. How much pride do you take in this accomplishment, not just for yourself, but as an inspiration to little girls around the world?
I know the very thing that people will look at is the money. The money is staggering, and it really wasn't about the money, but it takes the money for this recognition to be something that is eye-opening and monumental. And I spoke with our team today, as soon as it was approved by the board. And I didn't know what I wanted to say to them, but what I told them was, if you feel strongly about something and you have a conviction about something, sometimes you got to be willing to risk it all. And I told them it really wasn't about the money, because I made a lot of money before today. I made a lot of money before I even came to South Carolina. But my path has been divinely ordered. Like, I didn't want to be a coach. Coaching found me. I accepted the calling, and I've been able to check off some personal things, like winning a national championship, because I chose coaching, and it was divinely ordered. And then, coaching brought me here to the birthplace of my parents, and I don't ever think my mother would have come back to South Carolina if it were not for me taking this job. But for all for my players, I feel like they're at the most transformational years of their lives. They have 1 to 4 years in being here and gaining what it is to be a woman to work in the workforce and to have an understanding, what that is. It is, as just a woman, you make 84 cents on the dollar versus a man. For a black woman I think is in the 70s. So it's not about that. It's finding that you are an asset to an organization, understanding that asset and understanding that you bring value to it. And I just want this to be a valuable lesson to them, just continuing on, put their head down, grind, be of service, be of good service to other people, and, hopefully you'll be rewarded in this way, monetarily. But for me, it's more about, it's principle. Just be principled in what you believe in and what should occur. And it doesn't mean it's always going to happen. And that's why I pay great tribute to the men standing here. And I told them the breakdown. We got a male president, we got a male AD. The board is probably 90% male. Those are the people who made this decision. And I'm so thankful because it doesn't happen very often. But I'm super happy it happened right here at the University of South Carolina, where we can, again, be leaders in gender equity. Who knew? Who knew that this would take place in my tenure here at South Carolina? So I hope it's just an opportunity for the rest of the nation and the world to catch up.
Hi, Don. Congratulations, first of all. I wanted to ask, when you look back with all the success you've had and the commitment that South Carolina has shown today, whenever you had your introductory press conference, 13 years ago, not too far from here, was that what you envisioned, or, where does this stack in terms of what your expectations were?
No, for as long as I've played basketball or coached basketball, it's truly been out of the love. It's truly my passion. It is what I'm supposed to be doing. But along with that, things just come up. When you're passionate about something, there's always going to be people around you that will help or hinder it. You have to figure out who those people are, and grow with the ones that's going to help you. And, try to, keep the other people at distance. But I have to go back to just being, my path was divinely ordered. It was ordered because I'm supposed to be here today, enjoying what will hopefully one day help, some other people who look like me, who don't look like me, who are in a position where you're rewarded for your work. And it feels good, so I'm gonna feel good today, but hopefully be on the lookout for other board of trustees and presidents and ADs to step up to the plate and do something that is unpopularly right.
We'll take one more, Matt.
Dawn, I know the theme this year is net worth for your team. How fitting is that theme for you today and for the season as we go forward?
It's fitting, but it wasn't anything behind it besides showing appreciation for women's basketball fans, our players. The NIL is a real thing. And also just showing an appreciation for what it takes to cut down nets in a championship form. But standing here today, I think it's fitting, but it's only fitting if there are more days like this for other people.